The Trump juggernaut is reshaping the government and the nation into the MAGA world view. The latest edict coming from the White House Budget Office via a memo last night. And it has ordered a pause in all grants, loans, and other federal financial assistance. Now, this means hundreds of billions of dollars in grants to state and local and tribal governments will, in fact, be paused.
Nothing is off the table. Disaster relief aid, education, transportation funding, and the list goes on.
The president's rationale is outlined in the memo. He wants to stop, quote, the use of federal resources to advance Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars that does not improve the day-to-day lives of those we serve. That's from the memo. Here's an example. As writer and host of Restoring Order, Patrick Casey writes, in 2021, the Biden administration gave $540,000 to Transgender Equity Consulting, Inc. This firm is comprised of 6 Black and Latinx transgender and non-binary individuals, one who is apparently the first BBW trans porn star. I won't specify what that means.
Others are concerned about the overall impact. One person from Wisconsin tweeted the following. To put the OMB grant freeze in context, roughly 17.5% of Wisconsin's revenue comes from federal grants and aid last I checked. Overall, federal grants account for roughly 36% of all state government budgets in the US. In a number of states, the federal share is even higher. Bulwark journalist Sam Stein laid out a bigger issue right now. Quote, 2 parties running at different speeds. Senate Dems are holding a press conference today to condemn the pardoning of J6ers. That was done a week ago. Unclear if there is a presser today to go after the OMB's power play to take over all federal grant money. The Dems are simply flailing. This is what Jon Stewart had to say about this moment.
This is Trump's theory in governance. He's already laid it out to not President Bush in 2005, back when he was still accessing Hollywood.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the...
That's his governing philosophy. For all of it. Appointing people, firing people, writing executive orders, taking Greenland, making Wikipedia-like edits to the literal globe. But unfortunately, as of now, he's pretty much just democratically grabbing our... Yeah, we said yeah. He has the consent of the people.
The cope.
That's a pretty good Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America joke.
Yeah, that was funny. And actually, the funniest joke, and then I swear we'll turn back to the meat of this story, the funniest joke I saw about the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America thing was a picture of the other side of the country of Mexico, where there's another Gulf. Mm-hmm. It's named the Gulf of California. And the caption is, Mexico could do the funniest thing in response to this and rename the Gulf of California to be the Gulf of Mexico.
It's the kind of retribution we want in international relations.
Fun stuff. Anyway, this is to go with another meme. We need a complete and total shutdown of government until we figure out what's going on. This is obviously going to upset a lot of Democrats and probably a lot of state governments.
And a lot of people,
makers.
I think, actually. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, a lot of people, yes. But the idea is this memo comes from the office, the OMB, and says that, look, President Trump has declared that there can be no more DEI in government, no more woke, no more all of these somewhat nebulous terms. In some cases, DEI is a little less nebulous, and we're not going to fund it. And yet there are grants for all of these sorts of diversity, equity, and other things, as like the one I just read, and it needs to be paused until we can make sure we're not spending any money on that.
But I mean, I think one of the questions around it is the breadth of this ban, right? I mean, it is true that it is being framed as part of Trump's battle against wokeness or DEI or whatever. As you say, many of those terms are nebulous. Would, for example, I don't see how you can cite the example that the conservative guy on X cited and say that that would be the same as somehow encouraging a government department to diversify its hiring practices. I mean, those two things are very different, and they would both be covered, apparently, by the terms that Trump is putting forward here. So I think that there is a real danger of very legitimately vital services being at least impacted by what appears to be a rather performative action on Trump's part.
Let me give you another example. There was a lot of conversation yesterday that I saw on X, including from from people I would describe as certainly not Trumpy and not on the right, but liberal kind of skeptics of higher education, people who have agreed with me on free speech and safe spaces and those things, pointing out the number of university hiring type officials who were complaining about the DEI order, saying this is going to totally stop us from hiring the people we want. Because if you look a little bit more closely, what they were doing already flagrantly, in my view, contradicts the law. They would advertise positions and say, we really want, for this position, we want a Latinx person, we want a queer Muslim person, we want a, doing all these categorization that, again, depending on what it is, I would say is already illegal under existing law. And given that they were already doing this, if it's a purely private institution, okay, maybe it's fine. If it's a public institution, it's not. Given there's now all this evidence, they're complaining that they can no longer do all of the DEI hiring they were doing previously, even though I don't think it was legal when they were doing it then. That sort of action, that sort of admission justifies, calls to mind a need to shut down all sorts of grant-making abilities until we go through it and make sure it's not going to illegal causes.
I don't think that I see the connectivity between the two things as clearly as you do, because I think if those hiring practices are going on, as you say, they are against the law as is, and therefore the remedy to that is to enforce the law to prevent things that are blatantly discriminatory in that fashion. That is a very different question from taking away funding that apparently, according to the AP at least, has the propensity to affect Medicaid, food stamps, disaster relief. We're talking here about very vulnerable populations that are largely dependent upon these payments for their own existence, for remaining out of completely indigent poverty, and to make an example of them or to inflict some kind of cruelty upon them in the name of some battle against wokeness, I think is very, very selfish and performative.
Well, I'm just beginning to understand, what this covers. This is a recent order. I have not, frankly, seen a lot of commentary about it from conservatives, so I don't have as much case to be made for it because I haven't seen many people reacting to it.
You just accept the liberal point of view, Robby, as one that has
just
all the merit.
The liberal point of view, so I don't know exactly what will be. In reading the memo, it says that the director of OMB can grant case-by-case exceptions to allow federal agencies to continue issuing new awards. So for all I know, the disaster relief or food stamps or those kinds of things, can continue if they decide to, but we'll have to see what comes of this.
Yeah, I just think that there is a lot of vagueness about it, but I think the potential dangers of it are pretty grave.
Up next, we will have that interview with Senator Rand Paul to discuss the latest news with COVID's origins and Dr. Fauci.